Welcome to another episode.
The Modern Black Man Podcast.
I am joined with AZ. He has made some time, and we're just going to share a little bit of man time. We're just going to talk about business of the day. Um, AZ, I appreciate you making time. For anyone that is new to you and your world and they want to get connected, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I really don't have that big of a presence. Mostly just on Twitter, really, and get on there.
Hmm.
So that would be the best way. AZ underscore Yabish underscore. So
That's
that
right.
would be the best way.
Get a hold of AZ, man. Wisdom is rare. Knowledge is even harder to find. Meeting somebody that can put both of those things together, um, like a real person, is really difficult. I think that's how I got linked with AZ because anybody that's on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, the platform is mostly robots. And I think that's new. When social media first came out, it was people, and you could get connected to people that you wanted to get connected to because this was a new access. I think that in
Yeah,
2004, it's something a little bit different.
definitely. When I first um started getting on Twitter, that was the thing I liked is you can get different perspectives, different people's opinions on different topics. One of the things that got me into it is I didn't really care. I've never really been that big into the social media things. But then when I
Hmm.
would watch debates and they would show the hashtag, and I was always wondering, well, what do you get from that? So then I checked it out on Twitter one day, and back then you would actually get people's different perspectives on what people were saying, whether something was true, whether it was false, why they believed this was a good idea, why they thought it wasn't, and
Yeah.
then sometimes you would even get people still criticizing their own side. Nowadays, everybody is like you said, even if they're not bots, they're pretty robotic in their responses. They're all the same. People saying the same thing, the same words, almost exactly the same way every time. And it's like it's what they call an echo chamber. Mostly people are just want to hear what they want to hear. And you know, I ain't gonna lie, I could be a little hard headed at times, but I like hearing different perspectives. I like hearing when someone can put up a good argument and they do it in a way where I can respect them, even if I don't agree with them, even if I don't agree with where they're coming from or think, they're on the right track. I could respect, say, okay, I see where you're coming from. At least we could find common ground there.
People don't survive it anymore. The echo chamber is the only place they can
Yeah,
survive. Actually, having somebody compete with different ideals to poke holes in their argument will get you shot.
yeah. They're too sensitive about it. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to, everything they say can't be contradicted in any way. They're scared of it. They should embrace it.
But
No
think
one's
about the
perfect. No one has the
opportunity.
best opinion. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just was saying, think about the opportunity. People aren't original anymore. They know how to put together their own arguments. They just know they don't like something and they join the side that opposes it, as opposed to being aware, learning, getting better, and defeating
Yeah,
your enemy.
yeah. It's rare for them. It's almost getting rare. At least when you see online, when you see a lot of interaction online, for people to just be almost somewhere in the middle, and it could be a little left on this topic or a little right on that topic. Where now it seems like everybody has to be right down the line. This is my team. This is my side, and that's it. And that really
FOMO.
takes a lot away from it.
FOMO. That's all it is. They don't want to
Yeah,
say the wrong thing early. They want to say the wrong thing when it's okay.
yeah, yeah. It's a shame. More people should just stick to their beliefs. What they see is right or wrong. Sometimes you're gonna go against your own group, your own party, or whatever you want to call it, and that's okay. And
That's how
sometimes
you
those
get
ideas
better.
need to be challenged. Hmm?
That's how you get better. You make your tribe
Yeah.
better. You make your group better. Your team gets stronger. But we don't live in that time anymore.
Nah, yeah. It's too divisive. People
Yeah.
too scared to just stand on their own.
And I think that you do a great job of it. You have independence, um, maybe not mastered, but understood. And that's a freedom and power and a strength that not a lot of people have. You see that on social media because they don't know what to say independently. Like when the group
Yeah.
ain't riding with them, they have better instincts than I have because I don't follow that. I operate a little differently. But the way that this new monster is, they're very in sync. They're just not harmonious nor strong. Very strength is what diluted because
Yeah.
they all
I
keep
mean, it's,
it
it's
together.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 that's all. They keep it together. They share the strength.
Yeah.
There's no leaders.
It's it's the opposite. They're all weak. They're all weak, and their followers. They just want the pat on the back. They want the likes. They want the clicks. They want the reassurance of other people sitting there saying, "Yeah, you're right. You're right." They're scared to go out there, put their opinion out there, and not get likes, and not get some reassurance that they're correct.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. They should be strong enough to stand on their own. Say, "This is what I believe is right, whether you agree or not. This is where I stand." Oh well. And,
But they
and we
really
should be
are
able to
their
respect
life.
that and say, okay, we don't agree, but you stand on your principles. I can respect that. Even if I don't agree with your principles as a man, you
Yeah.
want to stand on yours, I can respect it.
But men don't respect that anymore. That's what they do not respect because you're not vulnerable like they're vulnerable. I've learned with the whole being online thing, the social media thing, guys are very different online than in real life. And it gets scary because some of these guys don't have a background to act the way they do and to say what they say. They don't have the license. And I think that's where the internet gets messy because in real life, consequences are very different than they are at your job. They're very different than what they
Yeah.
are at the mall and your favorite restaurant because unfortunately people have the ability to what do they call it, vigilantism, street
Yeah.
justice, karma, whatever you want to call it. uh, Hands are thrown, and I think we're in a very different time now because people, they find safety in casting a rock, and instead of hiding their hand, they just run the tape. They show you the receipts. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's the opposite of how we used to act and how I think we were raised. What was really put in us. You don't betray people like that, but that's the way people portray themselves today.
Well, you can. It's so much easier because you can. I know it's been said many times, but it's easier when you can hide behind the screen. You can hide behind a keyboard. Where back in the day, you had to say something to a man's face, or you would get called out for it. Someone say, "Hey, no, no, you said it. Now he's right here.
All
Say it
right.
now."
You
And
said you was gonna beat Hector's ass.
don't say it if you don't mean it. So you would get called out. So there was like there was consequences. Yeah, you had free say what you want to say, but stand on it. You got to stand on it. Eventually, someone's gonna come to you and say, "All right, say that now while I'm right here." People talk
But
very different when they're face to face than online, or when they're miles away, or he'll never find me. It's very
don't get it
different.
twisted. The internet is a liability. I'm not one to snitch on myself, but I realize that the feds have access to this toy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where this generation loses it. They don't understand that they are literally snitching on themselves, and they don't have savvy because the whole culture is wrapped around. Like I said, I think that's a good analogy, throwing a damn rock, and instead of being held accountable for throwing it, you recorded it. It's in HD. What do they say? Cotton 4K. As long as I have something I can see on a live stream, come on.
And they posted themselves on their own social media. And cops are not as stupid as people want to believe. They could operate social media too. It's.
I don't get it. I don't get it because the
I mean,
being an undercover, being a snitch is the easiest job because everybody does it part time.
yeah. These days, I mean, they're snitching on themselves. They're doing the cops for the job. I mean, they're doing the job for the cops.
it's not bad for a man to all right, I think you're back. I'm back. Sorry about that. Uh,
No problem.
but yeah, I think they just make it too difficult on themselves. And like I wanted to bring you in today, I wanted to talk about the future planning, financially establishing oneself. We don't do that enough. Unfortunately, it's not cool to be prepared. Um,
No,
you
it's
know,
not.
and I
I
come from.
think
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was actually something I thought about recently, and I didn't take it serious when I was younger. One thing I wish I would have took more serious is retirement planning. You know, more than likely, may end up working until the day I could no longer physically work or die. And that's the reality I had to accept. And if I was when I was younger, if I'd have took it more serious, especially when older people said it, this is a problem with our society. We dismiss too much of older people. You know, in the beginning when you were talking about wisdom, wisdom comes with age. You know, it never came with youth. And we did it. We're too easy to dismiss older people when they were giving us, you know, this knowledge when we were younger. And I know I'm guilty of that. Like I said, I wish I would have took investment retirement a lot more serious when I was younger. I'd be a lot better off now.
You just dropped the knowledge. It's because 30 years, 40 years, and for the real millionaires out there, 50 years out, that doesn't even seem real, especially the older you get. For me, I might, I listened to a lot of Biggie for the first quarter century, and now I don't want to say I'm ready to die, but death is a lot different, and life is also different. So all these things I throw out there, that's an incredible amount of work. That's a lot of planning. That's a lot of love. That's a lot of work.
Yeah,
That's a lot of investment. That's a lot of children. That's a lot of spouse. That's, all the
yeah,
components of life that you put together that we all overlook and undervalue. That's what it's all about. So, for the crux of our conversation, financial planning is everything. And I think it is only harder the later that we do it. Uh,
definitely.
and it's so rewarding just beginning with a little bit. It is incredible how quickly these things add up and the power of money, the power of numbers. So many fun and interesting things that come as you have assets to play with. So I want anyone that's listening to really put it in perspective and to chase those assets. If you're in your 30s, that's fine. If you're in your 40s, that's okay. Even if you're in your 50s, it's stacking them up for that decade or two or three that we have left until we're called back to the universe.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I think that that's what's really powerful, and it's so easy to just get started. I provide links all the time to services, and I think that a lot of these have changed my life. I'm pretty open about that. But the financial flexibility, the financial freedom, and what comes from financial independence, God is so good. You can't get that without having the journey and without working for it and creating it. And I'm
yeah, you're
trying
gonna
to
have to put in the
have it
work,
full time.
definitely.
Absolutely. You got to put it in the work. It's hard to save a dollar, but that's literally where it is. If you can save a dollar a day, you got a good start. If you can get that up to $10 a day, where you're actually cashing down and drawing down cash where you can do something like that every day, I think you begin to feel the difference. And I think I understand, I hope I'm getting a step closer to wealth because that those numbers I threw out to you. If you're able to save $100 or $1,000 a day, you're a millionaire. Like it's you're there. It's not far from us. We just have to learn how to have the right habits and to do things that keeps money versus losing money. Things that you only learn as a poor person.
Yeah, I mean, it takes sacrifice, especially the younger you are when you start. But the better you are, the younger you start, the better off you would be long run. But it
Hmm.
takes sacrifice, especially at the young age, you're barely getting out into the job field. Saving money is almost impossible because everything you make goes into living life. You're
And
gonna have to take away from entertainment value, going out, drinking, or something like that. You got to make the sacrifice early on. But it is something if you smart enough and disciplined enough at the younger age to do it, you'll be better off long run. You know, me, I just, like I said, I was too ignorant. I didn't see the big picture. I
you
was
didn't
just,
believe it.
hey, tomorrow's not promised today. Why am I going to save it up for then? Now I'm older. Like I see why I should.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wish I
Because
would have listened. I wish I would
numbers
have
don't
cared more.
lie. Numbers
Yeah,
can't lie. Numbers don't feel nothing. It's that we feel a way about it because I need this today, I need that tomorrow, and you're not getting $1, $10 a day from me. That there's no way that's going to happen. Once
yeah,
we change that thinking and elevate it, it changed my life. Being able to really understand what it is that we'll call them these people are able to do, but people that have freedom of time and financial independence, they're making the world a difficult one to live in. I'm not calling for class warfare. I'm just saying that that's the
mhm, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's. I remember I had a friend one time who made a great point to that though. That's like, how do you get too mad at them because somebody in their family before them was smart enough to set them up? I wouldn't be mad if somebody in my family before me was smart enough to set it up. Hey, let's build some wealth and leave it down to the next generation.
right.
You know,
But
so
think about what you see in the news. The people that have the ability to do that openly say that they're not going to leave their kids their wealth. I think
I think
people
that's weird.
infer different things about that. They're making so much money, it costs too much money. Their kids don't want the wealth. That's why. Rich people know that. And it's
Well, there
easy
was
to find the
a while back,
pledge,
the government made it to where they tax a large portion of that, right? What gets,
capital gains.
yeah, what gets, inheritance,
Yeah.
or at least
I
I know
think that's what
I
they
know
call
they
the
talked
death
about it.
tax.
I don't know if they ever went through with it.
Republicans call it a death tax now, but yes, it's a tax on your money. And rich people are smart because think
It was
about it.
actually Obama that introduced it and talked about it again. I don't know if he went through with it, but it was
Yeah.
actually Obama that pushed it on that inheritance tax for when you would
Trump
anybody who was
Trump
wealthy.
did some stuff with it too, and they kick it back and forth because they do tax you. As you know, the government, they're accused of everything in the world, and they are getting more taxes from demographics they previously
Yeah.
were taxed. That's a good way of
Not,
saying
not, not gonna start off good, but I gotta be honest. My taxes went down with Trump. Under Trump, my taxes went down. I was
it. Yep,
very happy to see that.
yep, yep.
I took home more money. So
Yeah, that's what matters though. And we talked
yeah,
about it earlier. Numbers don't lie. And there are several bigoted presidents that have helped a brother's bank account. And we won't forget about that because that really is the ebb and flow of politics, isn't it? Is that they
yeah.
can be forgiven for the sins of their fathers. They still have the same spirit in them, and that's fine. But that's where I really want us to be as a people is elevated and being able to save ourselves, not being at the mercy of. But that's my big dream.
Yeah, no, that's actually pretty on line with what really connected us on Twitter. If you go back to that conversation, was not
Man,
looking for somebody else a handout or anything. Was not making excuses. Stop looking at what's in the way and start looking at ways you can get around that. Start looking at solutions to your obstacles, not so much focusing on the obstacle. Okay, but what about this? Okay, well, no. How do you get around that? How do you get over that? How do you get past that? Life's a bitch.
well,
There's going to
yeah,
be bad shit. I mean, everybody's going to go through shit. Everybody's going to have things that holds us up and
man,
it's going to
yeah.
stop us from getting what we want. Nobody's immune to that. So, at the end
Let's
of the
talk
day,
about
we,
this young generation before we close out, because how do we prepare young men for this? Because it does sound a certain way, I believe, when
uh
you're a younger man and you hear an older man describe where you're trying to go or where you will be one day, um, in a bleak fashion. I think these
yeah.
young guys now, they're affected differently than we were. And I hear you and I feel the same way. But
Oh yeah.
these young guys, they don't want our responsibilities, and they don't have the same burdens that we have. And to give them even more credit, I think there's new obligations you have to have as a young man that I could not survive. I cannot be as emotionally sensitive, as gender fluid. You know what I mean? Everything that it is
Yeah,
to be
I
young
get
now,
that.
it's hard. It's hard.
But they're too spoiled. The thing is, especially for young men, I believe they need more tough love. They need more being talked to straight, like it is. We gotta hurt their feelings, and then we gotta not care and allow them to get over that and get stronger through it. You know what I'm saying? They need to stop getting babied. I'm an electrician, and I know working with a lot of this younger generation, you see them coming in with not much experience. They want to talk back. They want to question what you're trying to teach them in this trade. They don't want to put in hard work. They don't want to do the labor. They don't want to.
You're fighting the
As an
culture.
electrician, you start down here, and you run and you get the material.
Nope.
You run and you get the tools. You dig the ditch, not
How long
me.
have you been a
You
business
know,
owner? How
I've never been a
that's what they're
business owner.
doing to you.
Yeah,
But you've been in the game long enough to see they're gonna
yeah,
undermine, and they're gonna do everything they can to dismantle what it is that built you to where you are. These bastards that learn from you. That's what's
yeah,
different in our culture. I don't understand it because I'm I work for the government in a large trade school as well. And this young generation, they do not want these jobs. And I think it's interesting that they'll take the training because it sounds good and it feels good to say I'm a plumber and electrician, and they never learn it. They only
no,
tempt, and they spend so much more time than I'm sure you did before you actually started getting a grasp of your vocation. That's where I feel a different compassion and mercy and empathy for them, because I see it firsthand. That sucks. Yeah, plumber for
I
7
don't get that
years.
same compassion for them. I wish that we had more people who wanted to work so that we can get rid of their asses. They get on my nerves. Like, I mean, at some level, they need the tough love.
You
The
said it.
baby in
There's
them,
no
I think, is
replacement.
what got them to this point that they don't want to work and they don't want to put in the hard work. They think they should be able to take days off at will and come in late every day and put
Every
in
day.
half-ass work. And they just want the checks. They just want to bullshit around until they get the checks. And that it's earned. It's not given, and they're not earning it. They just want it handed to them. They've been babied too long. Probably too much single motherhood is what it is.
I don't know what it is, but you said exactly what I experienced, what I observed. This is some good ass money if you stick to it and you make
Oh,
it, but they
yeah.
don't, and it's
And the
unfortunate.
more you
But
learn, you could make your own money too. You can work for the company. You can get side jobs and make your own money. And
yeah,
so it's definitely options.
but you as their instructor, you log in their hours to the union. They will curse you out and tell you you don't know nothing, and you are the man. You're the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, that's what's different with this generation. They're looking to f you over, man. Is how I view it, and I just don't understand. how that it's entitlement. I don't want to just put it on others because it is them, but it's the generation because we've been taught we can just replace men and there's no value for what men do. If you look at a traditional man's job, a traditional gender role job like a vocation trade, right? Plumber, electrician, HVAC, repairman, they're men that we as a society have been demeaning and disrespecting for the last 40 years. So I think that's where that comes from because what other profession would tolerate that? Doctors aren't going to start disrespecting one another. You're not going to see a surgeon do something like that. You're not going to see lawyers acting like that. Like professional people, professional jobs aren't, I think, disregarded or regulated out like this, like essential work that makes our country go, that you need everywhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. Construction, carpentry, the housing boom that's going on right now. I live in Texas. I left the East Coast to come to Texas to get a palace, to get a house, because everywhere the cost of living is doubled. It's just crazy. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, certain parts of Texas is pretty damn expensive too. Maybe not compared to New York or
it's more
places in
expensive.
California where it's very expensive. Because I lived in Austin for a while. I live in Phoenix now, but I lived in Austin for a while, and that was what drove a lot of Californians out there is the fact that even though the houses are expensive to us, to someone from like California area, San Francisco, it's a great deal, and they go buy them quick.
Yep.
So, and the same thing actually happened here in Arizona too. And you saw the prices of houses go skyrocketing up, and then the rent prices went up right behind that. And yeah, you know, there's a lot of it's. I don't know how much. I don't know if you want to change topics, but a lot of the problem is these people voted this way where they
Yeah.
come from, and then they want to take that same mentality to where they're going now. You're running from the problems you created and you
Yeah.
don't want to solve them. You'd rather just run
You want
away
to
from
vote
them,
for
but you
the
don't change your
problem
mentality.
creators. Yeah, you vote for the people that create the problems and it perpetrates a cycle, and that's what we're comfortable with. Just like we talking about these kids, they have opportunity, but it is too much for them. And look at the plight of the young people. I worked a month. I need a day off. The plight of the young people. I've worked 3 hours. I need the afternoon off. Plight of the young. I need my paycheck right now. What difference does it make if you give it to me a few days early? It's just different culture, and I really believe, I truly believe this before we close out. The youngest of the children now, like the babies, they're going to be hardworking. I think they're going to be resilient. They're going to be different than all the generations in front of them. Um, I'm not saying they're going to be our saviors, but I think they're going to pick up the slack or do what they see the ones before them don't do. And this might be one of the first times we see this culturally, where there's generation or multiple generations that exceed the previous. We are still alive and we're falling behind our the generation before us, whether that's the boomers or the greatest generation, and possibly Generation X if you're that age.
I think of a millennial. I think like right in 39, so I think that puts me like right at millennial somewhere in there.
They call us millennials, but I grew up, they called us Generation X.
Because I think
And
Generation X was like the one before, right before me, and then like I
or
got right in on the millennial. Even though I don't for some reason I don't feel like a millennial. I don't know. I always felt
you're
like that.
LeBron, that's when they say millennial started, was 1984. So,
So I'm like
uh,
right on the cusp of it.
but I've also heard it go back all the way to 1980. So I think that they've made millennial a little too big. But yeah,
Yeah,
man,
probably.
yeah. Um, I really
But
appreciate you taking the time. I wish that um,
thank you for having me.
if there's anything that we need to promote, we can put it in the notes. But before we close out, is there a message that you want to let everyone hear before we close out?
Well, no, not really. I didn't have anything prepared or anything. But like I said, I don't really have much of a social media following. I thought about doing a YouTube, putting out small videos, just putting out my opinion on things. But if I do that, then I'll send you a link in the future.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on here. If you ever want me on here again, just let me know.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
try
I
to
want
work
to
out
get
a
that.
date and time.
Okay, that sounds like a bet. And you already know to continue to support themodernblackman.com, support this YouTube channel, and listen to the podcast episodes. We got some good content coming out. We're following the Mavs this season. We've been going to games all over the NBA, and
Oh,
I love.
Mavs, you had to be a Mavs,
Well,
man.
I'm Mavs, Pelicans, and everybody in the Southwest Division right now. I told you a few years ago, or for a few years, it was the Wizards. So this is a
Okay.
little bit better.
I can't stand Dallas. A Phoenix fan. So was a Phoenix fan. He
Then y'all won.
still got the residual hate for him. I can't hear you.